All right, I'm back, Biff. You got my notes there, I see. And Sean is 8:40. Hopefully. Might have a can of pop too. We don't have any cans? That's okay. I'll keep my water then. No, that's okay. That's okay.
Allow us to help put you back on the road to financial success.
Hello, it's John Kozik, founder and president of TurboTrack Realty, and I buy houses as is, fast for cash. Call me today for an all-cash offer on any of your properties, and we can close within days at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000. Do you own a property that's outdated and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Great, I'll buy it. Give us a call today for an all-cash offer at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000. Would it be convenient for you if you could simply take what you wanted and leave the rest behind? Great, I'll buy it. I buy all types of real estate completely as is. I buy vacant properties, inherited homes, divorce situations, death in the family, apartment buildings, rental portfolios. I even buy my tenant won't pay me the rent houses. Call TurboTrack Realty today for an all-cash offer and speak with one of our friendly staff members at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000.
For all of your IT needs, visit OmniPerforms.com. Omni Strategic Technologies, the only IT company that the Watchdog trusts. 304-214-1600. Call the Watchdog with your thoughts. We'll be right back to Local Talk.
Hello, everyone, from the Watchdog. I am the Storm Tracker, Darnell Foster, with a look at your local weather forecast for your Wednesday. Mostly cloudy skies with showers developing late, a high near 47. The overnight low of 40 degrees under mostly cloudy skies with periods of rain. Periods of rain on and off for your Thursday as well, with temperatures in the low 40s for daytime highs. Have yourself a great day, everyone, from the Watchdog. I'm Darnell Foster.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
Uh-oh.
Hear ye, hear ye.
Guess what day it is?
Now, this second day of February.
Guess what day it is?
Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day!
Groundhog Day?
If the groundhog wakes and sees a shadow,
Punxsutawney Phil, the seer of seers.
Will we see 6 more weeks of winter or an early spring?
I don't trust him.
I don't trust him.
Trust who?
Punxsutawney Phil.
He's like a furry little weatherman.
Let's get this show on the road.
Showtime.
Live from the Robinson Auto Group studios, this is the Valley's longest-running morning show, the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe from WKKX and WVLY.
Well, let's not wait any longer. Let's go up to Punxsutawney and see what Phil had to say today. I'm going to give you a little clue. If you're waiting for spring, you're not going to like it, but he kind of waddled out of his hole. Oh, I'm going to come out and see what's going on. And up there at Gobbler's Knob, here's what happened this morning.
My shadow I have cast, then a long, lustrous 6 more weeks of winter.
Here's my question, Biff. Why are they applauding for that?
I know, that makes no sense.
Who wants 6 more weeks of winter? Listen, we've had some nice winter. You know, at the beginning of the season, I always say what do I always say? Everybody knows what I like. I like a little bit of snow on Christmas Eve, just to make it feel like Christmas Eve and Christmassy. And then in January, I like one good snow, you know, sled riding, snowball making, snowman making, all that kind of stuff. When I can take the little kitty out and Teddy can go out and play in the snow. Well, Granddaddy doesn't really take him out and play in the snow anymore, but he gets to go out and play in the snow. So a little bit of snow Christmas time, preferably Christmas Eve. One nice, good, big snow. We had that a couple weeks ago. And then, as far as I'm concerned, thank you very much. Please come springtime. So why are these people applauding when he says 6 more weeks of winter? I don't want 6 more weeks of winter. That's a little irritating. Punxsutawney Phil's the groundhog that everybody pays attention to. But, of course, there are lots of other towns that have their own weather-predicting rodents. There used to be one up at the Good Zoo at Ogleby, although I don't think they do it anymore. But all different towns all around the country have their own version of Punxsutawney Phil, including Milltown, New Jersey, about halfway between New York City and Trenton. They've got a groundhog called Milltown Mel. Well, maybe I should change my verb there. They had a groundhog named Milltown Mel. He, too, is used as a weather prognosticator on Groundhog Day. But this year in Milltown, there is no joy in Milltown. Milltown Mel has checked out. They announced his death on Facebook, said they couldn't find a replacement groundhog in time. A replacement groundhog? I don't know, somehow I figure these guys have, been trained for this, right? I mean, these groundhogs have been trained, they're prepared. No. Just one dies, give me another groundhog. Oh, here I am. Anyway, Milltown Mel is dead. But they say he lived a long and happy life. I don't know. Coming up later on, Sean Fluharty, Ohio County delegate with us. He was thinking about running for the state Senate this time around, chose not to, running for not exactly re-election because the districts are different, but basically running for re-election to the State House. And we'll talk with Sean about his decisions and about the current legislative session coming up in a couple of minutes, coming up in the next half hour. But first, let's talk about what they're talking about down in Charleston with our morning Capital Report from Metro News.
This is the Metro News Capital Report, brought to you by AARP West Virginia. AARP is your ally for real possibilities in the Mountain State. Connect.
Okie dokie. Thank you very much. We'll do him right after this.
For real possibilities in the Mountain State, a wise friend and fierce defender for everyone in West Virginia as you get older. With 250,000 members and communities in all 55 counties, AARP is working every day for you. We have financial tools and health guides to help make sure the good things in your life live as long as you do. We're working to protect your hard-earned money, sharing tips and tools to help you spot frauds and scams. At the same time, AARP is advocating behalf of West Virginians 50 plus and their families at the state capitol. Every day, we're supporting family caregivers, fighting for things like better high-speed internet access across the state. And we're sharing the latest coronavirus information to help keep you and your family safe. Everyone in the Mountain State needs someone in their corner. That someone is AARP. For more information, connect with us on social media at AARP West Virginia or find us online at aarp.org/WV.
There's an interesting debate taking place at the State House in connection with the State Health Care Authority's Certificate of Need process. A bill in the House would eliminate the process. Supporters say it would open up health care in West Virginia, provide more competition and better care. Hospitals across the state, with one exception, Thomas Memorial Hospital in South Charleston, are against the bill. West Virginia Hospital Association President Jim Kaufman says there's a role for the CON process.
It provides not only appropriate planning, but transparency into the process, because while many argue that, free market forces should be the dominant factor here, the reality with 75% of our patients on governmental programs, healthcare is not a free market. It's not a commodity. We treat everybody.
Thomas Hospital CEO Dan Lawfer says his hospital can't meet the need requirements laid out by the Health Care Authority, including a much talked about cardiac care program.
We would like to pursue cardiac services. In terms of the number of CON applications we have filed, we have not filed any because the need methodology that exists is clearly an issue that we cannot meet.
The bill is moving through the House. I'm Jeff Jenkins on Metro News, the voice of West Virginia.
Again, more on the legislature coming up with Sean Fluhart, he delegate from Ohio County, in the next half hour of the show. It's 8:16 here on the Watchdog Morning Show, looking at 40 degrees at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. It's a little bit cooler, 31 here at my home studios in the Elm Grove section of Wheeling, 35 at the Robinson Auto Group Studios downtown Wheeling in the heart of the Ohio Valley. And we do have that winter storm watch that kicks into effect late tonight, stays with us through Friday. Aaron and Zach over the Big 7 are telling us basically starting off with some rain tonight, freezing rain mixes in tomorrow, snow mixes in tomorrow night, and then a wintry, slushy mix on Friday morning. Our biggest concern is probably going to be ice. Looking for a quarter of an inch of ice. We will see some snow accumulation, but ice is going to be the big deal. Again, we'll keep following that story for you throughout the day. I have talked a lot this week and over the last couple of weeks about Joe Manchin and Build Back Better, and how I think some people on the national political scene, both Democrats and pundits, maybe don't quite get where Manchin is coming from. And the answer, of course, or where is it coming from? It's West Virginia. I thought Jim Carville made a pretty good point, the Raging Cajun, in an interview this weekend, when he said, you got to keep in mind that only 11% of the Democratic Party is truly left-wing progressive. But that 11% makes up, Carville says, 70% of the noise. They get to Twitter and the media and so on and so forth. And I think that's a good point. Carville also made the point that you got to stop beating on Joe Manchin. He is coming from he's a Democrat in a state where we haven't elected no county has voted for a Republican president since 2008. So it's a pretty good point. And we've seen a couple of polls that have suggested people here don't support Build Back Better. But the polls I've seen up until today have been by folks that I think have a bit of a vested interest. The Manufacturers Association, for example, did a poll, but there's a vested interest in them seeing that there's not support for it. I'd rather trust a poll from people that I know. So my friend Tom Sussman, who is owner at WMOV Radio down in Ravenswood, did one of the polls he does frequently. We often have him on here to talk about it on the issue of Build Back Better. Tom, good morning. Welcome to the show. Appreciate your being here with us this morning. Thanks for joining me.
Good morning, Howard. And it's 37 degrees in the capital city. I was
so, yes, I was a weather. I did when I worked in TV. Our weather guy was sick. I did weather one time. I got a call from the boss and said, "Don't ever do that again." It's just not as easy as one would think.
No, it's
Tom,
not.
I've been talking about how West Virginians view Build Back Better. We have people like Bernie Sanders. He may be the far extreme example, but we have a lot of people on Capitol Hill who keep saying that oh, we can get Manchin, we can bring him on board, that, you know, he needs to look at what his people want, and he'll come back on board with this Build Back Better thing. Just yesterday, Manchin told a reporter when asked about Build Back Better, he said, what Build Back Better? There's no Build Back Better. I don't know what you're talking about. No. It's dead. And I think he reads his people better than some of his colleagues on Capitol Hill. Do you not agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I think he's more familiar with how West Virginians vote and what West Virginians are considering and looking at various aspects of that bill. And yeah, let's face it, Joe is probably the best retail politician outside of Arch Moore this state's ever had. And so, therefore, he gets it.
Yeah, and by the way, I've made that comment before. The two far and away best retail politicians, Arch Moore, Joe Manchin. I think Arch is a little edge on that, but I think that Joe's getting there pretty close. So you have, as you do from time to time at WMOV, you had a poll commissioned to take a look at this issue and some others too, but let's just talk right now about Build Back Better. What did you find in the poll in terms of how the West Virginians feel about Build Back Better?
Okay, well, so let me clarify. We didn't do all of Build Back Better. We only looked at one aspect of Build Back Better, and that's the child tax credit. And that's the one that probably had the most impact on West Virginians. I think there are some over 300,000 children were receiving benefits, and those benefits ended in December. So we looked at that, and one of the points that Senator Manchin has been talking about is that the version that was in the American Recovery Act provided those benefits to families of incomes of $400,000, and he had heartburn with that, which is understandable. So we looked at it, and we asked West Virginians, you know, if you did a child tax credit for high income and middle and low income, would you support it, or just middle income and low income? So if you include high income, 2/3 of West Virginians do not support that. If you do just middle to low income, like 2/3 of the people support that process, and that's what the senator's been saying on that. So, I mean, he clearly had had that one, and that's been one of his hangups on the bill. But generally, folks support the child tax credit, and then one of the things he's been saying is that this money should follow the children to the grandparents who are raising the grandchildren in West Virginia. He's talked about that a couple times. And we have a high number of grandparents raising grandchildren in West Virginia. Yep. And we asked them if they support money. Basically, many grandparents are raising their grandchildren in West Virginia and are their primary caretakers. Do you support or oppose these grandparents receiving tax cuts provided by the child tax credit from the federal government to help provide for their grandchildren? And 61.7% strongly support, 21.3% somewhat support. So about 83% of West Virginians believe these grandparents should get some type of child tax credit to help them. And that's a lot of what he's been saying.
But does it? All right, with those numbers in mind, and you're a consultant, you're a lobbyist, and you got your finger on the pulse of politics as well as anybody I know. What does this mean for Joe Manchin? Does this mean he may? What do you think? He looked at these numbers and other similar numbers. You think he's ready to renegotiate or to look at a trimmed down bill or a single bill or something? What do you think?
I mean, I can't speak for Joe Manchin. I think part of the problem with Build Back Better, and this is kind of outside the polling, but was that in Charleston, we use the term to define a bill as a Christmas tree, and that's when you put everything on the bill, including the lights, the ornaments, and Build Back Better to a certain degree was a Christmas tree bill. I mean, when everything from pre-K to carbon capture to energy type programs, and so it was a fairly wide sweeping bill. I think there's support for child tax credit, and probably if it came back as an individual item. But again, that's something I can't speak for Senator Manchin. But one of his big hangups has been the income levels within that provision of the child tax credit.
You know, Mitt Romney, I've quoted this to my audience quite a good bit lately. A couple of weeks ago, Mitt Romney made a point. I didn't agree with his conclusion, but I thought his premise was good. He said Democrats need to understand, especially progressive Democrats, Joe Biden was elected, quote, to stop the crazy. In other words, Joe Biden was elected because he wasn't Donald Trump. He really wasn't elected for, nor were the Democrats in the House or the Senate elected, to be transformational. Many of the progressive Democrats want this now to be a progressive transformational presidency, but really he was elected, quote, to stop the crazy. And I think that's, to me, in my opinion, that's a good point. I think there's a lot of overreaching being done here that is going to lead to lack of success when more realistic approach could lead to some success. That's my analysis. I don't know if you would agree.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if the country was ready for a transformational president, then there would be 60 Democrats in the U.S. Senate instead of 50. Yeah. Let's be straight. I mean, I think there are pockets that want some transformation, and there probably needs to be some of these policies need to be enacted. But I think you have to maybe look at it on an individual basis. I mean, you talk about Mitt Romney. He's been one of the people as a Republican who supported something similar to the child tax credit. I mean, it came from Newt Gingrich. So I think there's a way to do this stuff cross-partisan, but they haven't figured that one out yet.
Let's look at some other aspects of your poll, if you don't mind. You took a look at who might be running against Joe Manchin in 2024. Again, national pundits and some of the left politicians on Capitol Hill are saying, well, maybe it's time for a good progressive to run against him. Somebody could, he can be beaten now because of his position on this. You didn't find that to be the case in the polling that you did, correct?
No, I mean, we didn't look at primary, but we looked at general. And please understand, so when people listen to this and they go, I don't believe this, Joe Manchin, when you're running for office, if you can get 1,000 points up in a month or 1,000 points in a week, you're doing really well. And points are measurements of advertising. Between Build Back Better, bipartisan infrastructure, Let America Vote, immigration, Joe Manchin, probably from third-party groups, has probably had 6,000 points a week on TV, radio, newspaper. He's dominated all things West Virginia. It's probably positive to him to improve his brand. So I think a lot of that's where it's coming. But we looked at Alex Mooney versus Joe Manchin, and Mooney was at 27.7% for the U.S. Senate if the election were held today, and Joe Manchin was at 48.6%. So clearly, unless there's some major change, I think it's a bridge too far for Mooney to be looking at challenging Manchin based on the current set of the table.
Well, and Mooney's got his own challenge right now in this coming election against Dave McKinley, which is going to be interesting to see how that plays out as well. The guy that everybody talks about, Tom, as perhaps a contender for to run against Manchin is Attorney General Patrick Morrisey. A rematch, how would that look up? How would that play out?
Well, basically looking at that one, we looked at Manchin would be at 47.9%, and Morrissey would be at 28.6%. Again, Patrick Morrissey's not had any TV, he's not been running any commercials, and third-party groups have been running a ton of commercials on Joe Manchin. But it shows strength, especially when you look at where he was 2 years ago or 3 years ago in that election, now a couple-point winner. And then, so, yeah, I mean, this is, for Joe, this has been really fortuitous in terms, I think, that West Virginia voters are appreciating what he's doing.
Now, this one is interesting to me, and I'm really curious about this because I don't think he's going to run, although I don't know. What if Governor Manchin found himself going on? I mean, sorry, slip of the tongue there. What if Senator Manchin found himself going up against Governor Justice? I don't know that that's going to happen, but it could.
I mean, I don't know if it's going to happen, but understand in 2024, both folks, their terms are up. So we looked at that, and Governor Justice would be at 36.8%, and Senator Manchin would be at 41%. There's a 3.5% margin of error in this poll. I mean, that's a toss-up. It'd be an interesting fight. It'd be the two of the three titans in West Virginia politics going at it. So again, but still, 3 years away.
Again, I call on your political expertise. Does Governor, is something Justice would be thinking about? I'm of the opinion that Justice is probably not going to want to move into another political position. I think he's an executive. He's not a legislator. So I would think that he wouldn't want to run. But again, you get into a power position. So I don't know. What's your political nose tell you?
What's the most exclusive club in the world?
U.S. Senate.
U.S. Senate. Exactly.
Who doesn't want to be part of that?
Exactly. Yeah. And Joe Biden rode the train back and forth. Justice owns his own airplane, and the airport's 2 miles from his house. I mean, I don't know. And if Donald Trump picks up the phone and says, "Jim, I want you to run," what happens?
Well, that's a good point. I mean, and they were besties during the Trump presidency. So we'll have to see. I'm going to ask you one last question. I don't think you polled on this, Tom. Then I'll let you go. But I want to ask you one last question. I mentioned McKinley and Mooney. What's your thought on that McKinley-Mooney race? That we feel that's going to be maybe one of the premier races in the state, I think. What's your thought?
Well, kind of interesting. Again, this was not his current congressional district. And we're going to go back and look at this. I'm trying to find the question now. We looked at the opinion of Mooney. We did not have McKinley, and I'm trying to find this here. This question should have been a little better prepared. But
sorry, I don't have it in front of me.
He's underwater. With his favorables, and I can't find that question right now. But yeah, no, I think it's going to be a barn burner. Here we go. We asked him if he had a favorable impression of Congressman Alex Mooney. 25.5% of the people in the state said he had favorable. 38.7% unfavorable. 24% have heard but have no opinion, and 8% have heard of him, have never heard of him. And again, we haven't broken it down by the new congressional district, which we're going to do. But again, I would be somewhat concerned with those kind of negatives, especially with an election taking place in 2 or 3 months, 4 months.
At the beginning of, months ago, I thought McKinley had an edge in this because of geography, if nothing else. More of his district is part of the new district. Therefore, he's more familiar to more people than Mooney is. Mm-hmm. But Mooney's really come out swinging on this infrastructure bill and also on his Trump endorsement. And in West Virginia, that does make a big difference. So I've had to rethink my personal predictions on this. And at this stage of the game, I think I'm what you just call a barn burner. Yeah, at this stage of the game, I think it is going to be a bloody race. Let's put it that way.
And I may be a little jaundiced on this one because I've served with David in the House of Delegates, and I've known David for a number of years. And I've never known a more tenacious, hardworking candidate than David McKinley. And I think he's going to put his head down, and he's just going to power right through it. And in a lot of Mooney's elections, the way he's beat people over things like abortion and some of this stuff, and those one-trick pony type of campaigns, I don't think work on McKinley because I think they're on the same side on a number of those issues. So I think it's going to be a barn burner, whatever. But I think the work ethic will go to David.
And I think Dave McKinley is, whether you agree or disagree with his politics, and I'm a great example because Dave and I disagree a lot on politics, but he's a likable guy. I mean, Dave McKinley and I get along very well. We speak well of each other. We talk about each other's families. Heck, my daughter-in-law ran against him, and he still speaks well of her. So he's a likable guy. Mooney can be a bit pugnacious. I don't know how that plays out. Maybe that's for Trump supporters. Maybe they like it that way. But I think the likability factor edges towards David, even if you don't necessarily agree with him. He's just a likable guy.
Well, and he's got a constituent service operation that's second to none, and they'll get out and do stuff. And one of the complaints people in Charleston had about Mooney is there's no constituent service. And a small state like West Virginia, that's really important. So, again, this will all factor in. Mooney right now has the edge on money, but David's raising money. So, but again, it's going to be it'll be an interesting race.
Tom, always good talking to you, my friend. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining us this morning. We will talk again soon, I'm sure.
All right. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you. Tom Sussman, who is the owner of TSG Consulting, a lobbying and public relations firm in Charleston, also owns WMOV Radio, and is an old friend of mine. I always like you to know the connections. Tom and I have known each other for a long time. In fact, he was a part investor when I owned the radio station, so we have some personal connections. But he's a really sharp political guy. Used to use him as my political consultant here on the radio until he got bigger. Couldn't fit into my world. But good guy, very good guy. Well, another good guy, I think, is Sean Fluharty. We're going to talk to the Puppet Master coming up in the next segment of the show. He is running for, it's not exactly re-election, but he wants to stay in the State House. I thought he might go to the State Senate. We'll get his we'll talk to him about why he did that. And I want his assessment of the session. And also, I really want his assessment of Baby Dog's butt. We've got that coming up next here on the Watchdog Morning Show.
Now it's time for your local news headlines from...
Sorry about that, Biff. Okie dokie, thank you.
Wheeling Coin and Hobby is open daily from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Coin and Hobby, 304-232-8430, and add them on Facebook.
When I started at Mountain View Solar, I was placed on the installation crew, and I was very green to anything construction related.
Henry Gill Newton from Berkeley Springs.
Within about a year, I was able to run a crew and go out to jobs. I think it's time that we start working towards creating new infrastructure that can renew itself within seconds and maintain itself through years and years to come.
Paid for by Environmental Defense Fund.
Hey, I'm going to the kitchen. Can I grab you a Coors Light?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Huh. I never knew there was a zip line in my fridge. Hey! Hey, buddy! Yeah! You got 2 Coors Lights up there?
Always brewed down to 34 degrees. With a taste as cold as the Rockies, only Coors Light gives you refreshment every time.
Here you go. 2 Coors Lights.
Awesome, man. Wow, these are really cold.
That's the only way I deliver it.
Sure. I mean, you being a mountain climber and all,
Yep.
you probably need a pretty warm coat in there, huh?
Yep.
Hey, Ben!
Yeah!
Ask him if he has any nachos.
You got any nachos in there?
No.
Just icy cold Coors Light?
Yep.
That makes sense. It is the Rockies.
Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. With great beer comes great responsibility.
A serious injury from an accident can be just the start of your worries. What if you cannot return to work? How do you take care of your family if you're disabled? At Gelner Law Offices, we represent seriously injured people and understand their problem. We know how to get you fair compensation. We will work hard to make sure you get the money you deserve for your losses. Don't go it alone. If you're hurt in an accident, call us at 304-242-2900 or visit us at gelnerlaw.com.
We'd like to help.
You're never more than 30 minutes away from local and regional news with ABC News every hour. Plus coverage from Ohio, West Virginia, and WTRF-TV at 1/2 here on The Watchdog.
Miss a part of the show? Want to hear a segment again? Check out our podcast page at watchdognetwork.com. The Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe continues.
You're all puppets. Tangled in strings. There are no strings on me.
That goes back how many years since Sean Fluharty first got into the State House down in Charleston, but I guess that's sort of become his motto. There are no strings on me. Sean says what he wants to say when he wants to say it, and by golly, they pay attention to him. Well, sometimes they try and throw him out of the chambers, but, but they pay attention to him. Mr. Fluharty, delegate, sir, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Howard. It's been too long. How you doing?
Good. It's good to talk to you. I'm glad to have you on the line here. I got a bunch of things I want to get into. We'll talk about the session in a minute. I got to talk about Baby Dog's butt in a minute. But I need to ask you because I had speculated here live on the air a week or so ago. I thought you might be eyeing up a stab for the state Senate seat. Instead, you went to, it's not technically re-election because it's a different districting, but essentially you went to stay with the State House. What was that process? What's that thought process all about?
Well, I thought long and hard about it, Howard, and I told you that, and considered it very thoroughly. And at the end of the day, I made a commitment to the caucus. I am the minority whip. I was elected, chosen in leadership with the caucus recently, and I just felt it was too early to bail on the caucus. I'm a loyal guy, and loyalty is an important thing to me, and I thought it was just unfair to the caucus for me to bail on them and run for the Senate just 1 year after being selected as minority whip. So I decided to stay in the House and with my caucus and try to grow the best we can going forward, and that was part of the decision-making process. But quite frankly, the candidates that are running for it should probably send me a thank you letter for not running for the Senate, because it was mine to lose.
Well, wherever you end up, that's it's still, you still have a lot of position, and again, as you point out, you have a lot of strength in the caucus down there. Although the caucus still remains pretty small, Sean.
Well, yeah, it certainly does, and it's just the tell of the times right now in West Virginia, and that's why we're working hard to find good candidates, get people to the polls, and get them out, and do what we can to grow what we have, and build from there. We're building from within, and we've shrank in numbers the past couple of years, but at the same time, I really think we've strengthened kind of the unity that we do have, and I think you see that on a daily basis. We're working together and building the right team that we need. So we'll see going forward, Howard. Things kind of swing back, the pendulum will come back, and we'll see how this works out. But politics right now, it's crazy. You know full well. You're in the front lines of it on a daily basis. It's just a wild time now, and it used to be all politics are local, right? Now it's all politics national. That's what we're dealing with.
That's absolutely true. Sean, I've said several times on this show, and I've talked to some legislators about it, and to our reporters like Brad and Stephen and so on. This session, the current session, it feels different to me. It has a strange feel to it. I don't quite know how to describe it. It may be because it didn't start with a State of the State speech like it usually did, and it may be because some of the biggest issues were this Nucor plant and the tax incentives that were dealt with before the actual session got started. But it feels strange to me. Does that make sense to you, or do you feel that as well?
I agree, Howard. It's certainly different, and I think a lot of it had to do with what we just discussed. The filing period was going on, and I think the majority, they were holding back bills to try to not have so much controversy before the filing period ended. And I think you're going to see it really everything's going to hit the fan here in the coming weeks, and that's what's going to happen. But it certainly does feel different. I don't know if it's due to the filing period, the fact that we have a new redistricting in the House, maybe some leadership is having some infighting, because you see the bills that are coming out. We just had a certificate of need bill last night that had a 4-hour meeting in the Health Committee that was defeated 12-10. So when you see bills getting defeated in committee when there's a supermajority, there's something going on inside that's not right. I mean, you should never have that. And you have a supermajority, you should be able to get every bill out of the committee's process that you want. So it's certainly a different vibe, and I'll be the first to tell you that. But we'll see now after the filing period ended. I think you're going to see things kind of pick up. But back to the State of the State, I mean, what a mess that ended up being. It's international at this point.
You didn't think Baby Dog's butt was the best way to end that speech?
I like jokes as much as the next guy, and everybody would tell you that knows me. But you have to understand the moment. This is the state of the state. This is your opportunity to. You're in there with all the elected officials. You're in there with guests that have driven from all over the state to be there. You're with the Supreme Court. I mean, that's the moment for the state. It's a moment for the governor, and you have to own that moment. And there's a certain discourse that comes with it. And I can tell you saw the look on Speaker Hanshaw's face at the end of the State of the State and his displeasure with it. And he is a parliamentarian. He understands the rules. He follows the rules. And more than anything, he respects the process. And that was just beneath the office. That's what I said immediately following what happened. And I stand by that. I've been criticized for it. I've also been applauded for it and made every press from here to the Guardian. It's international at this point. But it's just, if you think about that, Howard, you walk the halls of the chamber, you walk the halls with all the portraits of governors throughout the years who took the office seriously. And I just believe that Governor Justice is not doing that. Every time he has something that is a big moment, he has to use a prop, or he has to be a spectacle. He has to do something that kind of one-ups everybody else. And I don't understand it. I think real leadership at that moment, if he wants to bring up Bette Midler, that's fine. Invite her to Charleston to meet with representatives and people of the state. Don't just try to have this big spectacle moment instead of just saying, hey, look, why don't you come here and meet our people and see what we're all about? That's what leadership should do. That's what you should say in that role as governor. He made it a circus, and now that's what every article that has followed is focusing on that moment where he brought his dog to the State of the State and did what he did, instead of saying, hey, here's what West Virginia is doing. We're trying to turn things around, and that's how we're working with our people to do it. So, I mean,
you use the word respect, and I think that's an issue. Respect for the institution, respect for the building, is important. I remember early on in my career when I was down in Charleston and was doing live coverage, and I got yelled at because I tried to go into the chamber without a tie on. I just had it.
Exactly.
It's like, I'm sorry, sir, you need to put a tie on. Oh my God. Okay, I get it. That was that shows respect. There's decorum there. I got to wear a tie, and this guy can flip his dog's butt around and point it to the cameras. It's a complete lack of respect. And I think that's what, although Hanshaw I give him credit for being careful about how he phrased it. I think Hanshaw was really upset with simply lack of respect. And I understand, Sean, that actually they told the governor not to bring the dog in anyway.
That's my understanding. And, but Jim Justice follows no rules, only his own. And it's just, I thought it was a mess. I wasn't one to jump up and applaud what I saw, and neither was Hanshaw and many others who were there. Not many will say something, but many others who were there who have been in office for a while. There's a certain decorum that comes with it. And it's just that moment. If he wants to do that when he's given his daily briefings, fine, go for it there. But not the state of the state. That's a certain decorum and discourse that comes with it. And I just felt it was well below the office. And as I stated, he continues to lower the bar.
I don't want to spend a lot of time on this next issue, but you posted a piece on your Twitter account yesterday. Some of you've been getting a lot of complaints, including one voicemail you called a Karen. It's not really Karen, but a Karen. She was really upset with you over this baby dog thing.
Yeah, it's amazing to me the amount of people who have responded from just one tweet that I sent out after the state of the state saying that I felt it was below the office, and you get people who get all riled up over it. I think if we could focus ourselves to real issues that impact West Virginians instead of focusing on things like baby dogs behind, we'd be in a better place. But that's where we are, and that's where we are right now in the political climate, Howard. It's crazy right now. People were upset that I said that bringing your dog to the State House floor during the State of the State is below the office. And you think you'd have a general consensus on that, but in this country right now, can't get a general consensus on anything, from the weather to the politics.
Sean, what do you think? Do you see anything positive on the horizon legislatively? A lot of talk. The certificate of need is being discussed. Unemployment cutbacks are being discussed. You have the the anti-abortion issue that is out there. I understand RFRA may be making a comeback, the Religious Freedom Bill, an awful lot of these hot-button right-wing issues. Do you see any positive issues coming forward?
Another thing, Howard, that hasn't been mentioned that I think deserves some attention is the amount of bills coming through that's taking power from cities and counties. Oh, yeah. And, we hear about local control all the time when people are running for office, and they say, we need to take power away from Charleston and return it to our cities and counties. Then they run legislation that from the city and county level to do away with city ordinances and make it easier to have a referendum on these ordinances, and with only 15% of people who had voted in the previous election. And if you're a county commissioner, if you're on city council, those individuals know their areas better than people in Charleston who probably couldn't find it on a map. But yet those in Charleston are the ones who are running pieces of legislation to bring all the power to Charleston. And when they say local control, really what they meant was controlling it from Charleston at this point. And that's something that I think is flying under the radar that needs more attention, so I wanted to bring it up. And I think you're seeing that, but nobody understands fully what they're doing. We also had a piece of legislation that would do away with a magistrate in Ohio County. And what they want to do is go to a complete population-based magisterial system. And what I mean by that is right now we have a system in place where, based on the amount of work that's being done, we have a set number of magistrates for respected areas, especially our area, which is a border area, Howard. So, right. We have influence of people coming in the oil and gas industry. We have Ohio and Pennsylvanians who cross the border and may commit crimes, and they are not necessarily part of our population base. So if they go to a straight population base, we're going to lose a magistrate. And that's not good for representation in Ohio County. It's not good for the crime that takes place in Ohio County. It's going to overwork what I consider the magistrate level, Howard. It's basically the emergency room of the judicial system. right? They deal with everything on the front end. And the last thing we do is want to have them overworked, because when people are overworked, we see errors that take place. And we can't have that happening. So that's another piece of legislation that's coming through that's kind of under the radar that people need to be aware of, because it impacts Northern Panhandle, Eastern Panhandle, and the bordering counties that we have.
The number, I don't think, we've talked about this business of taking local control away here on the show several times. But the number of bills, it's not just one or two. There are multiple bills that are working their way through that would take local control away. I think one of them would limit the taxation ability. If you have a sales tax, you can't have a B&O tax. The city of Wheeling would literally default on its bonds if that were to happen. They want to set the standard for discrimination at the state level, not at a level like the city of Wheeling has, which is much more progressive in their discrimination, anti-discrimination, if you will. There are numerous bills. I think the public needs to understand that. It's a full-on attack on local government, a full-on attack on local government from multiple fronts.
It really is, and it flies in the face of what they say on a daily basis when they're running for office. That's the points I've been making down here is, wait a minute, I thought the supermajority and the GOP were all about local control and individual freedoms, and all these things. Yet when you get to Charleston, get a little bit of power, they get power hungry, right? They want to continue that power and absorb everything they can and expand on it. And that's what you're seeing. You're seeing local control from Charleston, not actually to the cities and counties where it should be. It's funny because Democrats are always accused of that, right? But yet we're the ones defending local control and defending the cities and counties at this point. It's just it's a wild time in politics, Howard, and West Virginia's front and center on it, from the national scene to the local scene at this point. I mean, can you read a story right now without Joe Manchin's name being in it? It's crazy. And then look what we have in the GOP back home when you have Mooney and McKinley going at it, and Mooney's attacking McKinley for supporting bridges, and we have bridges collapsing in Pittsburgh. I mean, it's insane to me what we have going on right now.
It's politics, West Virginia style, I guess. Sean, I'm out of time for now, but we need to do it more often, so let's keep in touch, my friend, and we'll talk some more as the session goes on. You keep us informed, and we'll chat with you later, okay?
Absolutely. Good talking to you, Howard. Be safe this weekend.
All right, thanks a lot. Ohio County delegate and running for a delegate, Sean Fluharty, this morning here on the Watchdog Morning Show. Well, Bippy, I guess that's it. I'm done. The Watchdogs are coming up next. They'll continue talking about what's happening down in Charleston, and I'm going to get out of here and make way for them. However, I believe, all things equal, I'll come back tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock for the go-around of the big gig. Are you back with me?
I will join you for a Thursday.
Then we'll keep on doing it till we get it right.
That could be a long time.
Indeed.
The Watchdog is FM 98.1, AM 1600 WKKX Wheeling, FM 97.7, AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
From ABC News.
All right, Biffy. I'm not sure. Kayleen's not coming in. I don't know if that means we're not having a meeting or if we're going to do it on phone or something. So I'm not sure if I'm coming in or not coming in. I'm supposed to do interviews for the OVAC sponsors today. I don't know if we're going to do that today or not. So I may be down. I may not be down. I guess I got to figure it out here. We'll do it again tomorrow. All right. Thanks a lot. I'll let you get off to the Watchdogs. I appreciate your help, as always. Talk to you soon. Bye.
The name can be whatever. I just want the W's in the win-loss column. That's all I want.
Former Miami Dolphins head coach Brian Flores is suing the NFL, saying he was subjected to sham interviews for other coaching positions so those teams could fulfill rules about interviewing minority candidates. The nominees for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame class of 2022 are out. ABC News entertainment contributor Matt Wolf takes a listen.
Rockers, rollers, and rappers. Eminem among the nominees for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year, along with Pat Benatar, Judas Priest,